Good morning, everybody. Today is our 96 hours of fast being completed. Congratulations to all of those that made it. I know I originally said 5 days, and I have the energy to do that, but I feel like 96 hours is really a good place to show you all how to come out of the fast. And I am going to make stuffed butternut squash, and we're also going to start breaking the fast with some broth. So I have some broth right here that I canned up a few months ago, and I'm just gonna open that up. You heard that pop. That's a good sign when you're canning. It's just gonna go into the jar, and I'm gonna put it on the stove because I don't want it cold, and that's that. So while I'm doing that, I sliced the butternut squash in half. I took out the seeds, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little pepper and some salt and season it up. And again, this is Redmond's real salt, not iodized salt, so it's not quite as salty, but it also has a bunch of minerals in it. And then I'm going to take a little olive oil and just drizzle it. Dry areas. Okay, and then that's going to go face side down on the sheet. Same thing here. Okay, face side down. And that's going to cook in the oven for about 40 minutes. Just put that in there. Timer. Now, what we're going to add to that is some sausage, and this is andouille, but you can really use anything you want. You can use ground sausage, you can use ground beef, you can use turkey, you can use chicken, really any kind of meat you want. If you're not a meat eater, then you can add tofu, you can add cheese, you can add really anything you like. And I'm going to just kind of chop this up into little pieces because I want everything about the same size. Excuse me. I don't know why I always sneeze when I come on here. I don't sneeze any other time. That's spiritual warfare. And that's actually something that I want to talk to you about today. We have a new administration coming in this country. Big changes in Israel. And you probably get tired of me talking about Israel, but it is the center of God's world. So you might not care about it. You might not like Israel, but I'm going to kind of encourage you to read what the Bible says about that. The Bible says they will bless those that bless Israel and curse those that curse Israel. And so, if you're cursing Israel, you're bringing curses upon you and your family and your communities. And I do have some concern about how things are going over there as far as a two-state solution. God also states He does not want His land divided. And so, when we start looking at doing that and our country gets involved in it, we are bringing curses upon us. And I don't think that's a wise idea. I was really looking forward to Huckabee, who is a past preacher and knows these scriptures very well, talking Trump out of those ideas, but he seems determined to have peace in the Middle East. And, you know, regardless of what the end result is, it's all in God's plan. He still sits on the throne. You know, Psalm 2 says that He sits at the throne and He laughs as the countries conspire against Him. And that's really what we've been seeing the last few years. I was hoping that we would get a respite during that time and that we would be able to, encourage more people to come to the Lord, but we'll see. One thing I do know is that there's going to be huge spiritual warfare going on because there's change and there are more godly people going into government right now, and if we're not on guard, you're going to be under attack, because I've told you before, first the Friday people or Saturday people, then the Sunday people. Hamas is emboldened, which means Iran is emboldened, which means Russia is emboldened, which means Turkey's emboldened, which means, they're all emboldened right now. I can't imagine having a daughter that was a hostage for over 400 days and being raped daily. Gang raped and beat and total darkness. They were not in any way feasible following any kind of Geneva Convention guidelines of prisoners of war. In fact, they weren't even considering them prisoners of war because they were civilians, which should make it worse, but instead it meant less involvement. So, what do I think about that? I think it's all terrible. And we need to keep praying for them. We need to keep praying for the other. Okay, broth is done. Let that cool down now so I can drink it. So we need to just be aware that spiritual warfare is coming, and it's coming to the United States. And as I've said before, the best thing you can do is get in the Word and know the Word. It's life, it's peace, it's all the things that you need in your life. Now, we're going to start this fast with breaking with the broth. And I will have, that's just a pint jar, so that's just 8 ounces. And then there's going to be a break of at least a half hour before I eat any of this stuffed squash. And I very likely will actually have some avocado and a hard-boiled egg before that. But I chose this for a couple reasons. One is I need to clean out the fridge. We are at 0 degrees right now with wind chills at -10, which for Kentucky is not very common, and the roads are pure ice. And so I'm running a little bit low on green leafy vegetables. Not 100%, but okay, that looks pretty good. So, the next thing I'm going to do is, this is some crushed up walnuts. And walnuts are wonderful food for your brain health, high in good fats and protein. And so I'm going to add those in there. Kind of mix it up, see how the balance is looking. I'm going to add some dried cranberries. I have an apple here that we're going to just kind of, this is a Granny Smith. I wanted something that was kind of tart. So we're going for kind of a tangy and savory. And the other reason I chose these foods is high fiber. I don't know how this fast, for some reason my gut seems to have slowed down, and so I really want to make sure that everything's moving through there and all of those senescent cells that have been deposited in there get evacuated. And so I want a lot of fiber today. And so I'm hoping that this does that. not a chef. So if this looks like, oh my gosh, you're just taking forever to do that, yeah, I probably am. Usually when I do applesauce and stuff, I use a peeler and corer because it's so much faster. And okay, it did turn off. I'm sorry. I don't know what the problem is with it, but we'll do the best we can. So this might be a 3-part, or at least a 2-part. And I'm just trying to get my chunks relatively similar in size, okay? So on the spiritual warfare front, you know, put on the full armor of God every morning, which is, you know, the breastplate of righteousness, the helmet of salvation, the shoes of the gospel, the sword of the Spirit, which is probably the most important, the belt of truth, and you just want to live a good life. You want to try not to sin. You want people to see that you're different. You want to be kind. You don't want to let the things of the world move you. And I think one of the beauties of homesteading and growing your own food and cooking from scratch is you're spending more time doing wholesome things. And there is peace in it, you know, I mean, and what I really am hoping that I achieve through this is, first of all, I'm obedient to God because He asked me to do this. But secondly, I think there's a lot of older adults that are lonely, that feel like they've hit a brick wall. They lost their purpose when they retired and they don't know what to do. And I've been there. I mean, that's the point that I wanted to take my life because I thought I was done. I didn't have any purpose, and I was lost. It was really not a very nice place to be. But the Lord told me, you're not done yet. And so I'm not done yet. And you know, I got back into my horses and started cooking and making food from scratch and just doing things that were better for my health. Okay, so one more thing I think I want to add to this, and I don't have any really good leafy greens except for on my box. But I'm going to add this in because I want a little bit more. This is just some bok choy. And want more fiber and more color in there. And again, what you put in here is really up to you. There is no one size fits all. What you have works. This isn't about, you know, I'm going to add a few more nuts. And you'll notice I don't really, oh, that's what else. I have a little bit of thyme that I'm going to add in there. I'm going to do a little bit more. I picked this when I was out in the garden earlier today. I want to use some for garnish at the end. And then I'm going to add some feta cheese. And the feta usually is kind of pretty chunky here, so I usually break it up, but I think I'm not going to because I want it to melt in there and just kind of give a nice okay. So this is going to be my stuffing, and what's going to happen is that when that's done, after 40 minutes, it's got 25 more minutes, then I'll take it out. I'm going to scoop out some of the butternut squash and make. Okay, well, I'm just going to show you this real quick. There's your avocado. I put some sauerkraut, eggs, and the stuffed squash. I have my broth here, and I'm actually going to start with this, give it a little bit of time, and then go to this as the squash cools down a little bit. But didn't that turn out beautiful? And I made up a little bit of dressing here with some honey, the little bit of avocado that didn't come out of the shell, and some olive oil. And I'm just going to drizzle that on there. And what I'm going to do with the rest of this stuff is I'm going to go harvest some lettuce later today. And all of the filling that I didn't use will go into a mixed salad tomorrow. And so I'm taking care of for a couple days. So, you know, don't worry if you have too much of something and not enough of something else. Improvise. You might find that that new recipe is 10 times better than the original. And even if it's not, you haven't wasted. You know, one of my things on a budget is that I really don't like things going to waste. And so I want to use every last bit. That's why I ferment, that's why I can, that's why I'll sometimes have, you know, like I buy frozen wild salmon and Pacific salmon. I'm not real crazy about Atlantic salmon. And it's at 1.25 pounds. Well, that's a lot of salmon for me. And that's like 2 or 3 days of meals, sometimes 4. So I try and get creative. You know, I make salmon sushi cups. I might have some lemon garlic salmon. I might have some teriyaki salmon, but I might have salmon for a few days in a row just because I don't want it to go to waste. You know, and that's just how, if I had a bigger family, then it would be a 1 day or 2 day thing. You just have to work with what you got, and right now that's what I got. So again, I very much appreciate all of you. I love you. I hope that you have learned something through this fast and coming off the fast, and I will see you tomorrow, God willing, and sooner something crazy happens, okay? Thank you. Bye-bye.